The sound of my father's funeral hymn still echoed in my head as I pulled into our driveway. A moving truck sat there like a bloated beast, its rear doors wide open, swallowing the contents of my life. Two men carried our leather couch, the one where Ryan and I spent countless Saturday mornings watching cartoons, down the front steps. I killed the engine. My hands trembled as I stepped out of the car, my black funeral dress catching on the doorframe. Mark stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching the movers with the same expression he used when supervising yard work. "What's happening?" My voice cracked. "Why are there movers at our house?" "Not our house anymore." Mark's lips curved into what might have been mistaken for a smile. "I sold it last week. You were too busy with your mother to notice the signs going up." The world tilted sideways. I grabbed the car door to steady myself. "You what?" "Sold it. Got a great price too. Grace Parker handled the listing, you remember her from the Christmas party?" He checked his watch. "Speaking of which, I need to meet her in an hour to sign the final paperwork." Grace Parker. The blonde real estate agent who'd spent the entire party laughing at Mark's jokes. The one who'd touched his arm too many times. "You can't sell the house without my signature," I said, but uncertainty crept into my voice. "Actually, I can. Remember that power of attorney you signed last year when I restructured our investments?" His smile widened. "You really should read the fine print, Layla." Ryan's bicycle lay toppled on the lawn. A mover approached it. "Don't touch that," I snapped. "Where's Ryan?" "At David's house." I thought it best he didn't see this. Mark pulled out his phone, scrolling through messages. "You can pick him up later. I've arranged for you two to stay at the extended stay on Richmond Avenue until you figure something out." The casual way he dismissed our 15 years of marriage made my stomach turn. "Figure something out?" "I just buried my father." "Yes, and I'm sorry about that. But you've spent so much time with your family lately, I assumed you'd want to stay with your mother anyway." A mover emerged with Ryan's trophy collection. Soccer championships, science fairs, spelling bees, each one I'd proudly displayed in our living room. The man stumbled, and one trophy fell, shattering on the concrete. "Careful with those." Mark barked, then turned back to me. "Look, I've been more than fair. I'm leaving you the car, and I've arranged for a monthly stipend until Ryan turns 18. Fair? The word tasted like acid. "You're throwing us out of our home while I'm at my father's funeral?" He shrugged. Timing's never perfect for these things. Through the open door, I could see our walls stripped bare. The family photos, the artwork Ryan made in kindergarten, the mirror my grandmother gave us as a wedding present, all gone. 15 years of memories, packed away or discarded while I held my mother's hand at the cemetery. "Why?" The question came out as a whisper. "Because I can." He checked his watch again. "The movers need to finish by 5. You should gather whatever personal items you want to keep. Everything else is being placed in storage. I'll have my lawyer send you the details." I stood there, watching strangers dismantle my life, piece by piece. The funeral dress felt too tight, suffocating me. My father was dead, my husband was leaving me, and my son's bicycle lay broken on our lawn. Mark's phone buzzed. He smiled at the screen, then looked up. "Grace is waiting. Don't forget to pick up Ryan by 6. He walked to his BMW, calling over his shoulder, "Oh, and Layla?" I kept the good coffee maker. You never used it properly anyway. As his car disappeared down the street, I noticed my hands had stopped shaking. The numbness spreading through my body wasn't grief or shock, it was something colder, something harder. I pulled out my phone and called my brother Tommy. "I need your help," I said when he answered. "Mark's going to regret this. Every single bit of it." The extended stay's fluorescent lights cast a sickly glow over Ryan's sleeping face. He'd cried himself to sleep, clutching his father's old college sweatshirt, the only piece of Mark he'd managed to grab before we left. I sat in the room's single chair, scrolling through my phone, piecing together the past few months like a jigsaw puzzle of betrayal. Tommy's text from 3 weeks ago suddenly caught my eye. Saw M at Riverside Plaza with GP. Looked cozy. Probably nothing, but thought you should know. I'd dismissed it then, too focused on Dad's declining health. GP. Grace Parker. The signs had been there, written in neon, while I'd been changing Dad's morphine drips and holding Mom's hand. My phone buzzed. Tommy. You at that motel? He asked when I answered. Extended stay. Sounds fancier than it is. I kept my voice low, watching Ryan stir. Did you know about the house? Just found out. But listen, there's more. Tommy's voice dropped. I did some digging. Mark's been moving money around, big amounts. And get this, he took out a second mortgage 3 months ago. The room's cheap artwork, generic landscapes in plastic frames, suddenly seemed to mock our situation. How did you? I'm good with computers, remember? And David Clark owes me a favor. A pause. Mark's in trouble, Layla. The kind that makes men do desperate things. Ryan whimpered in his sleep. I moved to the bathroom, closing the door softly. What kind of trouble? Not sure yet. But David mentioned something about investors demanding returns. And there's a pattern of transfers to an offshore account. A memory surfaced, Mark insisting I sign those investment papers, his hand on my lower back, guiding the pen. For our future, he'd said. Trust me. I need proof, Tommy. Something I can use. Already working on it. But there's something else. He hesitated. Mom's asking for you. She's not doing well with Dad gone, and now this. Guilt twisted my stomach. I'd dropped Ryan off at David's house and driven straight to the motel, too ashamed to face her. I'll visit tomorrow. I can't tonight. She understands. But Layla? Tommy's voice hardened. Mark's going to pay for this. Nobody messes with my sister. After hanging up, I returned to the main room. Ryan had kicked off his blanket, his face scrunched in distress. As I tucked him back in, his eyes fluttered open. Mom? His voice was small, confused. When are we going home? Soon, baby. The lie tasted bitter. Get some sleep. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Sorry about the house. Didn't know about the funeral. Grace. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Sorry? She was sorry? The woman who'd helped my husband steal my home while I buried my father was sorry? Another text followed, we should talk. Coffee tomorrow? Just us girls. Just us girls. Like we were friends meeting for brunch, not a wife and her husband's mistress. I started typing several responses, each more venomous than the last, but deleted them all. Instead, I wrote, Starbucks on Main. 10 a.m. Grace's reply came instantly, perfect. So much to discuss. I set my phone down and stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. The woman looking back seemed older, harder. Dad used to say I had Mom's eyes, kind eyes, he called them. But there was nothing kind in my reflection now. My phone buzzed again. Mark this time, signed the papers. Grace says you're meeting tomorrow. Play nice, it'll be better for everyone. Especially Ryan. The threat in those words was clear as glass. He thought he had all the power, that I'd roll over and accept whatever crumbs he deigned to throw my way. Because that's what good wives did, right? What good mothers did. I looked at Ryan, peaceful now in his borrowed bed, then back at my reflection. Mark was right about one thing, this was about Ryan. But he'd forgotten something crucial, Nothing is more dangerous than a mother protecting her child. I texted Tommy, "Need you to do more digging. Everything you can find on Grace Parker." And Tommy? "Don't worry about being gentle." Grace Parker looked exactly like her real estate headshots, perfect blonde waves, practiced smile, designer blazer. She sat across from me at Starbucks, stirring her skinny latte with precision, as if measuring the exact number of rotations. "I know this is awkward," she said, her smile never wavering. "But I want you to understand, Mark and we didn't plan this." I wrapped my hands around my black coffee, letting the heat ground me. "Did you plan selling my house while I buried my father?" Her smile flickered. "That was unfortunate timing. But Mark assured me you'd been distant for months. Always at your parents' house, neglecting your marriage. My father was dying. And now he's dead." She reached across the table, her manicured hand stopping short of touching mine. "Life goes on, Layla. Mark's ready to move forward. Maybe you should too." My phone buzzed. A text from Tommy, "Check your email now." "Excuse me," I said, pulling up my inbox. The subject line read, "GP Financials, Urgent." Grace's voice turned honey-sweet. "Mark mentioned Ryan's struggling with the changes. I have some experience with children, my sister's kids adore me. Maybe I could." "When did you file bankruptcy?" The words cut through her rehearsed speech like a blade. The color drained from her face. "What?" I scrolled through Tommy's documents. 3 years ago. Right after your divorce. Interesting timing, considering you just helped sell a house you couldn't legally broker. That's private information." Her voice sharpened. "And irrelevant. Your real estate license was suspended 6 months ago. Something about mishandled client funds?" I looked up from my phone. "Does Mark know?" Grace's perfect posture cracked. She glanced around the coffee shop, then leaned forward. "Listen carefully. Mark and I have plans. Plans that could benefit everyone, including Ryan. Don't make this messy." Too late. I stood up, but Grace grabbed my wrist. "You don't understand," she hissed. "Mark's not who you think he is. There are things." Let go of my arm. "He's dangerous when he's cornered. The money, the house, it's bigger than you know." Her nails dug into my skin. "Walk away. Take whatever settlement he offers." I twisted free. "Funny. I was about to give you the same advice." Outside, my phone rang. "Tommy. Did you see the files?" he asked. "Yes. But there's more. Grace just warned me about Mark being dangerous." "Something about money?" "That's not all." Tommy's voice tightened. "David Clark called. He's scared, Layla. Says Mark's been moving millions through the bank. Client money. The kind of transactions that attract federal attention." My legs went weak. I leaned against a storefront window. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying Mark's not just having an affair. He's running a scheme." "And Grace?" "She's not just his mistress, she's been helping him flip properties, launder money." Through the coffee shop window, I watched Grace make a call, her hands shaking as she pressed the phone to her ear. "There's something else," Tommy continued. "Remember Dad's investment account? The one Mark offered to manage?" The world tilted sideways. "No. It's gone, Layla. All of it. The account was emptied 2 weeks before Dad died." My father's voice echoed in my head, "Mark's good with money. Trust him with the accounts, he'll make sure your mother's taken care of." Grace emerged from the coffee shop, her perfect facade crumbling as she spotted me. She hurried toward her car, fumbling with her keys. "Tommy," I said, watching Grace's retreat, "I need everything. Bank records, property deals, all of it." And I need to know who else is involved. Already on it. But Layla? Be careful. If Mark realizes we're digging. He won't. I started walking toward my car. Because his perfect girlfriend is about to have a crisis of conscience. What do you mean? I watched Grace's BMW peel out of the parking lot. Let's just say Miss Parker looks like someone who'd rather make a deal than go down with a sinking ship. And Mark? The rage I'd been containing since the funeral crystallized into something colder, sharper. Mark thinks he's ruined my life. I'm going to show him what ruin really looks like. David Clark's hands trembled as he slid the manila envelope across his mahogany desk. The bank's after-hours silence pressed around us like a weight. If Mark finds out I gave you these. He loosened his tie. My career, my family, everything I've built. I took the envelope. He won't know. You don't understand. These transactions. David's voice cracked. The FBI's already asking questions. Unofficial inquiries, but. How long have you known? He wouldn't meet my eyes. About the money laundering? 6 months. About Grace? Longer. The betrayal stung fresh. David had been at our wedding. Had helped Ryan learn to ride a bike. And you said nothing. Mark has dirt on everyone, Layla. Even me. He pulled out a flask, hands still shaking. Especially me. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. Ryan's asking questions. Says Mark promised him a new house with a pool. Should I tell him? I typed back, no. Coming to get him. David took a long drink. There's more. Your father's investment account? Mark didn't just steal it. He used your signature to open credit lines, take out loans. When the feds come, and they will come, they'll look at you too. The room tilted. What? Your nursing license, your ability to work. He finally met my gaze. Mark's made sure if he goes down, you'll burn with him. My phone buzzed again. Mark this time, taking Ryan to dinner tomorrow. Grace wants to bond with him. Don't interfere. The fury that had been simmering since the funeral crystallized into something colder, more focused. I need copies of everything. Already done. David gestured to the envelope. But be careful. These documents, they're not just about money. There are names. Powerful people who trusted Mark with their secrets. Like you? He flinched. I was weak. Karen was sick, the medical bills. Save it. I stood, clutching the envelope. I trusted you with my family, David. With my son. I'm sorry. He looked suddenly older, defeated. For what it's worth, I never thought he'd go this far. Using your father's death as cover to sell the house? That's cold, even for Mark. Another text buzzed. Tommy, Grace called. Wants to meet. Says she has proof of everything. Does Grace know? I asked David. About the FBI? Mark's kept her in the dark about most of it. She thinks they're just flipping houses, maybe some creative accounting. He laughed bitterly. She has no idea she's been helping launder cartel money. The word hit like a physical blow. Cartel? Why do you think he's so desperate? These aren't the kind of people who accept excuses. David's hand shook as he poured another drink. Get Ryan somewhere safe, Layla. Please. My phone lit up again. Grace, we need to talk. Not about Mark. About Ryan's safety. The pieces clicked together, Mark's sudden rush to sell the house, Grace's warning at the coffee shop, David's trembling hands. This wasn't just about an affair or stolen money. My son was sleeping in a motel room while his father played games with cartel cash. One more thing, David said as I reached the door. Mark's planning to leave the country soon. And he's filing for full custody of Ryan. The envelope felt heavy in my hands, weight of secrets, of betrayals, of threats. But something else was building inside me, something beyond rage or fear. Something that felt like clarity. I pulled out my phone and texted Grace, tomorrow. 9 a.m. Same place. Bring your proof. Then Tommy, need you to get Mom and Ryan out of town. Now. Finally, I turned back to David. When the FBI comes? Tell them everything. But first, tell them about the sister-in-law Mark paid to disappear 3 years ago. The one who knew too much. David's face went ash white. How did you? I'm a nurse, David. I know how to keep secrets too. And now? I patted the envelope. I know how to use them. Mom's kitchen hadn't changed since I was a kid, same yellow curtains, same coffee-stained counters, same smell of cinnamon and worry. Ryan sat at the table, building a fortress out of sugar packets while Tommy paced, his laptop open beside him. The cabin's ready, Tommy said. 3 hours north, off the grid. Mom's bag is packed. Mom's hands shook as she stirred her untouched coffee. I won't hide while my daughter fights alone. It's not hiding, I said, watching Ryan's fortress grow. It's protecting Ryan. From his father? Her voice cracked. What aren't you telling me, Layla? Before I could answer, Tommy's laptop pinged. He leaned in, then swore under his breath. Mark's moving faster than we thought. Large withdrawals, account closures. And, he stopped, glancing at Ryan. Hey buddy, I called. Why don't you show Grandma your new video game? Once they left, Tommy turned the screen toward me. Mark's booked 3 tickets to Venezuela. Tomorrow night. Him, Grace, and Ryan. The room tilted. He can't take Ryan out of the country without my consent. He can with the custody papers he filed this morning. Claims you're unstable, grieving, unfit to parent. Tommy's jaw clenched. Judge Harrison signed them an hour ago. Harrison? The name hit like a punch. Mark's golf buddy? The same. Tommy pulled up another document. But here's what Mark doesn't know, Grace made copies. Account numbers, client lists, everything. She's scared, Layla. Says Mark's been getting calls in Spanish, coming home with bruises. My phone buzzed, Grace, he knows I talked to David. Says he'll tell them about my part in it. Please help. Another text followed, meeting at the house in 30 minutes. Come alone or I send everything to Mark. She's trying to play both sides, Tommy warned. No. I grabbed my keys. She's trying to survive. The drive to our old house, Mark's house now, felt surreal. The familiar streets seemed to mock me with memories, Ryan learning to bike, Sunday morning walks, a life I thought was real. Grace's BMW sat in the driveway. She stood beside it, designer suit replaced by jeans and a sweater, makeup smeared like she'd been crying. Inside, she said. Please. The house was empty except for a few boxes. Our family photos were gone, replaced by modern art pieces, Grace's taste, not Mark's. He's going to kill me, she blurted. Not literally. But when they come for the money, when they realize I helped him. She pulled out a USB drive. Everything's here. The accounts, the properties, the names. Enough to bury him. Why help him in the first place? Because I loved him. She laughed bitterly. Or I thought I did. Until I saw what he did to you, to Ryan. Until the threats started. My phone buzzed. Tommy, Mark just landed at the airport. Coming your way. Grace saw my expression change. He's coming, isn't he? She pressed the USB into my hand. Take it. But Layla? There's something else. Something worse. What could be worse than cartel money? The sister-in-law who disappeared? She didn't just know about the money. A car door slammed outside. Grace went pale. Back door, she whispered. Go. I'll stall him. I slipped out just as Mark's voice filled the house. Hidden behind the garden shed, I heard their voices rise. You stupid bitch, Mark snarled. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Mark, please? The sound of flesh hitting flesh made me flinch. My phone lit up. Tommy, FBI's moving tonight. Get out now. Another text followed from an unknown number, Mrs. Thompson? Special Agent Roberts. We need to talk about your husband's connection to the Morales cartel. And about what really happened to Sarah Clark. Sarah Clark. David's sister-in-law. The one who'd disappeared after threatening to expose Mark's schemes. Grace's scream pierced the evening air, followed by a heavy thud. I clutched the USB drive, my heart pounding. In that moment, revenge didn't matter. Justice didn't matter. Only Ryan mattered, and keeping him safe from the monster his father had become. I texted Tommy, get them to the cabin. Now. Then I dialed Agent Roberts' number, watching through the window as Mark loomed over Grace's crumpled form. Agent Roberts? I'm ready to talk. About everything. Agent Roberts' office felt like a confessional box, small, sterile, with fluorescent lights that made everything look sickly. The USB drive sat between us like a loaded gun. Your husband's smart, Roberts said, scrolling through Grace's files. Using real estate deals to clean cartel money. But Sarah Clark figured it out, didn't she? My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Where is she? Dead. Roberts slid a photo across the desk. Sarah Clark's car, crushed at the bottom of a ravine. Accident, officially. But we both know better. My phone buzzed. Tommy, Ryan's asking for you. Mom's keeping him calm, but... Mrs. Thompson. Roberts leaned forward. We can protect you, your son. But we need you to wear a wire. Get Mark to confess. Another buzz. Mark, meeting at the country club. 8 p.m. about Ryan's future. Come alone or the custody hearing gets ugly. He'll know, I said. He's desperate. Cartels breathing down his neck, FBI closing in. He'll talk. Roberts pulled out a wire. You just need to push the right buttons. The country club's parking lot was half empty when I arrived. Mark stood by the entrance, perfectly pressed suit hiding the monster beneath. He smiled when he saw me, that same smile that once made me feel safe. You look tired, he said, leading me inside. Motherhood's aging you. The wire itched against my skin. Where's Ryan going to sleep in Venezuela? His step faltered. Who told you? Grace talks when she's scared. I kept walking, heart pounding. Like Sarah Clark talked? He grabbed my arm, fingers digging in. Careful, Layla. Or what? Another accident? I pulled free. How many people have you killed to keep your secrets, Mark? Lower your voice. His smile turned predatory. You know what happens to nurses who lose their licenses? Who can't support their children? Better than what happens to cartel money launderers in prison. The blow came fast, not a punch, but a shove that sent me stumbling into an empty conference room. Mark locked the door. You stupid bitch. His voice was eerily calm. You think you can threaten me? I own Judge Harrison. One word from me, and you'll never see Ryan again. Like Sarah never saw her family again? Sarah was weak. Like Grace. He moved closer. But you? You're something else. Fighting so hard for a kid who isn't even yours. The world stopped. What? Mark's laugh was cruel. You really thought those fertility treatments worked? That miracle baby after years of trying? He pulled out his phone, showed me a photo, Ryan as a newborn, but with a different woman. Sarah wasn't just my accountant. She was Ryan's mother. The wire felt like it was burning through my skin. You're lying. DNA doesn't lie. Ask your brother, I'm sure he's already hacked the hospital records. Mark pocketed his phone. Sarah threatened to expose everything, take Ryan away. I couldn't allow that. So you killed her. My voice sounded distant, hollow. I protected my son. Like I'm protecting him now. He pulled out custody papers. Sign these. Walk away. Or I tell Ryan the truth about his real mother, right after I tell the cartel where to find your precious family cabin. My phone buzzed. Tommy, FBI lost the wire signal. Get out now. Mark smiled, offering his pen. Tick-tock, Layla. What's it going to be? The papers blurred through my tears. Everything I'd fought for, every moment with Ryan, bedtime stories, scraped knees, first days of school, felt like a lie. But then I remembered Ryan's voice this morning, love you, Mom. I took the pen. Mark's smile widened. Smart girl. No. I dropped the pen. Smart would be wearing a wire that actually works. His face changed. What? I pulled out my phone, recording app running. Say hello to Agent Roberts. The conference room door burst open. Roberts led the charge, agents swarming in. As they cuffed Mark, he called out, he'll never forgive you when he learns the truth. Maybe not. But Ryan would be alive to hate me. And Sarah Clark would finally have justice. My phone buzzed one last time. Tommy, Ryan's safe. Come home. Home. Not the house Mark stole, not the life he'd destroyed. But somewhere new, somewhere honest, even if that honesty might break both our hearts. The courthouse hallway stretched like a gauntlet. Mark sat on a bench outside Judge Harrison's chambers, still wearing his expensive suit despite the ankle monitor. His lawyer whispered urgently in his ear. Ready? Tommy squeezed my shoulder. I clutched Sarah Clark's diary, the final piece Agent Roberts had recovered from the ravine. No. The custody hearing would start in 20 minutes. Mark's eyes found mine, his smile confident despite everything. He thought he still held all the cards, Ryan's true parentage, the forged documents in my name, the debts that could destroy us. Mrs. Thompson. Grace emerged from around the corner, arm in a sling, face still bruised. A moment? Tommy tensed, but I nodded. Grace led me to an empty conference room. Mark's lawyer reached out. Her voice shook. Offered me immunity if I testify that you knew about the money laundering. That you helped. And? I said no. She pulled out her phone. Because of this. The video showed Mark in our old house, raging at Grace. Sarah got greedy, threatened to expose everything. You really think I won't do the same to you? My hands trembled. When? The night you wore the wire. I had my own insurance policy. Grace's laugh was hollow. Funny thing about men like Mark, they never think the women they use might be smarter than them. The conference room door opened. Agent Roberts entered with David Clark. It's done, Roberts said. Judge Harrison's been arrested. David's testimony about the bribes was very compelling. Mark's voice carried from the hallway, what the hell is this? We stepped out to find 2 federal marshals replacing Mark's ankle monitor with handcuffs. New evidence, Roberts announced. Money transfers to Judge Harrison, correspondence about Sarah Clark, and he held up a USB drive detailed records of cartel transactions. Your wife's been busy, Mr. Thompson. Mark lunged toward me, marshals barely holding him back. You think this changes anything? Tell them about Ryan. Tell them how you've been lying to my son. The hallway fell silent. Ryan, who'd been sitting quietly with my mother, looked up. Mom? The word cut deeper than any knife. I opened Sarah's diary, found the photo tucked inside, Sarah holding newborn Ryan, her smile radiant. The same smile Ryan had inherited. Your father's right, I said, moving toward Ryan. I have been lying. By not telling you about how brave your birth mother was. How she tried to protect you. How much she loved you. Mark's face contorted. You bit. Sarah Clark was your mother, I continued, kneeling before Ryan. And she was a hero. She discovered what your father was doing, tried to stop him. Tried to save you. Ryan's eyes filled with tears. But, you're my mom. Being a mom isn't just about blood, buddy. Tommy stepped forward. It's about who reads you stories, kisses your scraped knees, loves you no matter what. She's not your real mother. Mark shouted as the marshals dragged him toward the elevator. She stole you from Sarah. Ask her about the fertility clinic records. I pulled Ryan close, feeling his tears soak my shoulder. I didn't give birth to you. But I have loved you every single day of your life. And if you'll let me, I'll never stop. Did. Ryan's voice was muffled against my shirt. Did my real mom love me? I opened the diary, showed him Sarah's words, my beautiful boy, I'll do anything to keep you safe. Anything. She died protecting you, Grace said softly. From him. The elevator doors closed on Mark's fury. In the silence that followed, Ryan picked up the photo of Sarah. Can I? He swallowed hard. Can I keep this? Of course. I wiped his tears. And I'll tell you everything about her. No more lies. Ryan studied the photo, then looked at me. But you're still my mom too, right? Always, I promised. If you want me to be. He hugged me fiercer than ever before. Over his shoulder, I watched the marshals lead Judge Harrison away in handcuffs, while David Clark handed more evidence to Agent Roberts. The truth hadn't brought revenge. It had brought something better, justice. For Sarah, for Ryan, for all of us who'd loved too deeply and trusted too much. Let's go home, I whispered to Ryan. Which home? Wherever we're together. The small box of Sarah's belongings sat on our new kitchen table, the photos, letters, the diary that had exposed everything. Ryan traced his birth mother's handwriting with careful fingers while I prepared dinner, the routine of chopping vegetables anchoring me in this strange new normal. She liked poetry, Ryan said, holding up a worn notebook. Like me. The knife paused over a half-cut carrot. You write poetry? He shrugged, suddenly shy. Sometimes. About everything that happened. Tommy's voice carried from the living room where he was installing security cameras, a precaution that felt necessary, even with Mark awaiting trial. Kid's got talent. Found his notebook last week. My mother appeared in the doorway, arms full of fresh laundry. Just like Sarah. She used to send me her poems, you know. Before. Ryan's head snapped up. You knew her? She came to me first, Mom said, setting down the laundry. About Mark, about the money. I didn't understand then. But she trusted me with one thing. She pulled an envelope from her pocket, yellowed with age. This was for you. When you were ready. Ryan's hands shook as he opened it. A poem, written in Sarah's flowing script. Read it, I whispered. To my son, Ryan began. They say blood makes family, but love makes truth. In darkness or light, two mothers' hearts beat for you. His voice cracked. The doorbell rang. Agent Roberts stood outside with Grace, her arm out of the sling but her eyes still haunted. It's done, Roberts said. Mark took the plea deal. 20 years, minimum. The cartel connections alone. And the house? The question stuck in my throat. Seized as evidence, Grace said. But I brought these. She held out a stack of photos, Ryan's first steps, birthday parties, moments I'd thought lost forever. Found them in Mark's office. Couldn't let them go to evidence storage. Ryan appeared beside me, clutching Sarah's poem. Did you know my mother too? Grace knelt to his level. No, but I wish I had. She was braver than all of us. Mrs. Thompson, Roberts said, there's something else. The fertility clinic records Mark mentioned? They were altered, but not by you. By Sarah. The world tilted. What? She knew what Mark was, even then. Made sure if anything happened to her, you'd be Ryan's legal mother. She chose you. Ryan slipped his hand into mine. Mom? Can we hang Sarah's picture in my room? Next to the one of us? Of course, baby. After Roberts and Grace left, we gathered around the kitchen table, Ryan, Tommy, Mom, and me. A makeshift family built from broken pieces and hard truths. Ryan read more of Sarah's poems while Tommy ordered pizza and Mom fussed over homework. My phone buzzed with a text from David Clark. Mark's asking to see Ryan. Says he has more secrets to share. I deleted it without responding. Some secrets weren't meant to be weapons. Some truths were meant to heal. Mom? Ryan looked up from Sarah's notebook. I wrote something too. Want to hear it? The simple question held worlds of trust. Not forgiveness, we were beyond such simple things, but understanding. Love that transcended blood and betrayal. Always. He opened his own notebook, pages cramped with a child's careful writing. 2 hearts, he read. One gave me life, one gives me home. Both gave me love. Tommy wiped his eyes, trying to hide it. Mom squeezed my hand under the table. The security cameras blinked silently, guarding our new life. Sarah's diary lay open beside Ryan's notebook, 2 mothers' hearts beating through words across time. Outside, the world moved on. Mark faced justice, Grace sought redemption, old wounds slowly healed. But here, in this moment, revenge gave way to something stronger. Not the family we'd lost or the one we'd thought we had, but the one we'd chosen. The one we'd fought for. Ryan continued reading, his voice growing stronger with each line. In his words, I heard echoes of Sarah's courage, his own resilience, and a love that defied definition. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't in destroying what hurt you, but in building something beautiful from the ruins.
My daughter came home from a Christmas party at my husband's family's house crying. When I asked her what happened, she gave me a present without saying anything. Mom, look at this. Why do I have to deal with this? She said. I was shocked when I opened the present and saw it wasn't something suitable for a child. I went to the police right away and asked them to find out who gave it to her. The police found out that Ed, someone from the party, did it. It caused a big fuss in the family, and Ed got in serious trouble. I'm in my 40s, and my husband, who is in his 30s, works at the same company as me. I started working at this company when I was in my mid-30s. At my old job, I decided to switch because my boss called me old-fashioned for not being married by 30. But at my current job, they care more about how well you work than how old you are or what gender you are. My husband, who is now my boss, took care of me when I first started. We got married quickly and now have a daughter in 3rd grade. She's quiet and loves to read, and she's kind to everyone. My husband's sister causes a lot of problems, and we don't get along. But I'm lucky to have a good relationship with my in-laws. My sister-in-law doesn't like that I'm older than my husband, and that we had a quick wedding. She used to make mean comments about my age and appearance, even though she used to visit us a lot when we first got married. She'd make fun of my body after having a baby and say hurtful things about getting older. Despite all that, I try to ignore her negativity. I often feel insecure because I'm older than my husband. I try not to let it bother me too much, but sometimes my sister-in-law's hurtful comments sting. Just before I was due to give birth, she announced her own pregnancy and had a quick wedding too. It seemed like she didn't care about anyone else's feelings. Thankfully, she stopped visiting when she moved away with my in-laws after getting married. I was relieved to be away from her sarcasm, and I could focus on preparing for childbirth. When I finally gave birth to my daughter, it was tough, but my husband's support gave me strength. Hearing our daughter's first cry was an emotional moment for both of us. 7 months later, my sister-in-law had a baby boy and started visiting us again, just to make mean comments. She even compared our children, saying ridiculous things like my daughter's skin would be wrinkled because I was older. I was too busy with my newborn to pay much attention to her remarks. But then she started taking things from our house without asking, like diapers and formula, and it baffled me. Eventually, she stopped coming when her husband's job moved them to another state. We had a peaceful time until our daughter started elementary school and found out her cousin, my sister-in-law's son, was in the same class. I knew then that my peace was over. Despite our rocky relationship, my daughter and her cousin got along well. My daughter, being older and kind-hearted, took care of him. They ended up in the same third-grade class, and one day my daughter won an award for her reading. During the break between summer and winter breaks, we visited my in-laws. There were relatives present who usually didn't get together, possibly because they heard about my daughter winning an award for her reading reflection. However, my sister-in-law wasn't happy that our family was getting so much attention. She accused my daughter of taking a book that was supposed to be for her son. In reality, they had just swapped books because they couldn't decide which one to read. After finishing both books, they discussed and decided which book report to write together. My nephew liked the book my daughter read first, so she let him have it. But my sister-in-law didn't believe this explanation. She started spreading rumors that I had helped my daughter with her writing competition by using a connection with one of the judges. These rumors made my daughter feel really down. She even stopped reading her favorite books. I couldn't take it anymore. I wanted to talk to my in-laws about everything that had happened. But first, I confessed everything to my husband. It was the first time I told him about all the things his sister had done to me since we got married. My husband was furious and decided we should tell his parents together. They went to my sister-in-law's house and confronted her. She was surprised but started resenting me even more. She called me names and accused me of acting like a victim. After that, she kept calling and leaving angry messages, but I ignored them. Eventually, the calls stopped. However, in December, a children's Christmas party was organized at my in-laws' house. It was the first time they had done something like that, and I wondered why they decided to do it this year. My daughter was thrilled to get an invitation to a Christmas party. She had fond memories of a party at her kindergarten and expected her elementary school to have one too. Unfortunately, her school didn't celebrate Christmas due to their stance on religious events. I thought it was a shame to miss out on such a festive occasion just because of religious reasons, but it seemed some parents were particular about it. So I suggested to my daughter that we have our own celebration at home. Last year, we had a great time exchanging gifts and enjoying each other's company. The invitation for the party at my in-laws' house mentioned bringing a gift within a $20 budget. My daughter and I went shopping together at a nearby mall to pick out the perfect present. She chose one of her favorite picture books, hoping to share her love for it with whoever received it at the party. We lived just a short bus ride away from my in-laws' house, so I let my mother-in-law know when my daughter was on her way. She kindly offered to pick her up from the bus stop. When she called to say my daughter had arrived safely, I felt relieved. However, my relief didn't last long. About 30 minutes later, I heard the front door open unexpectedly. It was a weekday, and my husband was at work. I was working from home because my daughter was on winter break. The sudden sound of the door opening startled me. I rushed to the entrance, alarmed by the unexpected noise, only to find my daughter sitting on the floor, crying. She handed me a gift-wrapped bag and said I would understand once I looked inside. As I opened it, I found a torn-up newspaper with my daughter's reading reflection printed on it, along with a message card written in red ink. The card warned that if we got too arrogant, our family would end up like the torn stuffed animal inside, which was covered in red ink that looked like blood splatters. It was clear this wasn't just a harmless prank. I couldn't believe my daughter would receive such a cruel gift by chance. When I asked her about it, she told me that my sister-in-law had prepared it specifically for her. This was supposed to be a child-focused Christmas party, and we had all agreed that adults wouldn't personally prepare gifts. That's why I didn't go with my daughter. But somehow, my sister-in-law managed to sneak in this malicious present. My confusion grew when I realized my mother-in-law hadn't mentioned my sister-in-law's presence. My mother-in-law had always encouraged us to inform her if her daughter did or said anything to upset us. I had even told my daughter to do the same. I tried to explain to my aunt what had happened, but she interrupted and said she didn't call for me. She mentioned that only children with a connection to missionary schools were allowed. My daughter asked what a missionary school was, and I struggled to find an answer. Recently, one of our relatives had gotten into a missionary school, which had become a big topic of discussion. My sister-in-law's son had also attended a missionary kindergarten. Hearing this, I realized that many of us had connections to such schools, even if we weren't aware of it. We had chosen to send our daughter to a local kindergarten and elementary school instead. It seemed like my sister-in-law was using this topic to criticize my daughter. I told my daughter to stay inside, and I rushed to the police station alone. I argued that the threatening gift was a serious matter. Although the police suggested resolving it within the family, I insisted that threats could be valid even among family members. I explained that the gift contained not only threatening words but also a mutilated stuffed animal, which I believed was a malicious act. Just then, a female police officer happened to pass by. She agreed that threats and violence within a family should be taken seriously. The female officer took charge and empathized with how scared my daughter and I must have been. After providing my sister-in-law's address, she promised to go and warn her right away. In the end, my wishes were fulfilled. I couldn't help but shudder at the thought of what might have happened if that police officer hadn't passed by. It was disheartening to realize that some in the police force wouldn't act unless it was an actual incident or accident. I wondered how I could protect my daughter in case of an emergency. That evening, when my husband returned from work, I told him everything that had happened. He was furious with his sister for ruining our daughter's fun out of spite. He immediately called his parents to protest. Since the Christmas party was happening at their house, they claimed they had no idea about it. They explained that they had left the back door unlocked, so my sister-in-law might have entered that way. My mother-in-law apologized for not paying attention to who was coming and going, as she was busy picking up other grandchildren nearby. My father-in-law had been away at work during the day. The Christmas party was mainly organized by the middle school-aged nephews and nieces, and my mother-in-law had mostly left it to them. The police officer had firmly warned my sister-in-law later on. From what I heard, she was told that any further reports could lead to more than just a warning, so things should be fine for the most part. However, my in-laws were distressed by my sister-in-law's actions, which had involved the police. It could potentially lead to criminal behavior. Consequently, they called a meeting with both our family and my sister-in-law's family, with the parents present, for discussion. When we arrived at my in-laws' house for the meeting, my sister-in-law and her husband hadn't shown up yet. They finally appeared right at the last minute, with my sister-in-law clearly sulking. It was obvious she wasn't remorseful and was resenting me for calling the police. Her husband, sitting next to her, looked clueless about why they were summoned. He seemed to have been called without being informed of the reason. During the discussion, he was shocked to hear for the first time about all the things his wife had done to our family, unaware that things had gotten to this point. My sister-in-law's husband profusely apologized to us, feeling sorry. My in-laws saw my sister-in-law's reaction and asked if she had anything to say. But all she replied with was, "Not really." She didn't seem to understand why she needed to apologize, acting as if she hadn't done anything wrong. She said, "I didn't do anything bad. The police came but didn't arrest me, right? So that means I didn't do anything wrong." Everyone else was shocked by her logic. It was like they couldn't believe what they were hearing. It felt like a waste of time just lecturing her. Then, out of nowhere, my sister-in-law's husband announced that he was divorcing her. We were all puzzled because it seemed like they had a good marriage. When we looked surprised, he confessed that he had reached his limit with her behavior. Since they got married, he hadn't complained about her not doing housework during pregnancy. He hadn't scolded her for neglecting childcare and going out to have fun, thinking it was just stress from being a new parent. But her carelessness with housework once led to a small fire, forcing them to move. She was also vain, insisting that their son attend a prestigious kindergarten when she heard other kids in the neighborhood were applying. However, he didn't get in due to lack of preparation, and embarrassed, she forced them to move again. Although his job did involve transfers, they weren't as frequent as their moves suggested. He revealed that the frequent moves were not just because of his job transfers. To maintain my sister-in-law's image, they moved frequently, especially after her son failed to get into a prestigious kindergarten. She tried to enroll him in an international kindergarten, but when that didn't work, they barely managed to get him into a missionary kindergarten. They only agreed on a public elementary school because their son wanted it, and my sister-in-law reluctantly complied after her husband supported their son's wishes. He was worried that her vanity would put their son's well-being at risk. He had been considering divorce for a while, but with her harassment becoming more apparent, he felt he had no choice but to announce it. My sister-in-law, somewhat aware of her actions, didn't dispute what he said, but seemed surprised by the divorce announcement. She started apologizing to us, thinking it would help. She claimed it was just a joke or a prank and never expected us to take it seriously. But I reminded her that her husband had criticized her, asking if she could say the same thing to her own child. Her actions were unimaginable for a parent. Just because someone is a parent doesn't mean they have parental feelings. There are people who can't be real parents, and she might be one of them. My husband, seeing her crying, told her sternly that crying wouldn't fix anything at her age. She needed to stop thinking tears would get her out of trouble. She cried even more, insisting she did nothing wrong and wasn't to blame. She felt everyone was ganging up on her, blaming her because her brother married an older woman. She argued that her marriage and her harassment were totally separate issues. We already thought she was a bit odd, but even my husband was astonished by her lack of understanding. No one tried to comfort her, as she seemed inconsolable. The discussion couldn't continue, so we decided to adjourn for the day. Her husband had to drag her to the car and take her home. Their divorce eventually happened, but it was messy because of her stubborn refusal to agree. Her son's accidental revelation might have been a factor in her agreeing to the divorce. He, without any malicious intent, shared what he saw with his friends. However, the parents who heard the rumor did not remain silent. After winter break at school, my nephew talked about having a Christmas party with his older cousins. It seems they used a class presentation to share their winter break memories. Among stories of New Year's Day and video game consoles as Christmas gifts, my mom gave my cousin a special present just for her. When the teacher asked what kind of present it was, my nephew described exactly what he saw. A cute stuffed animal all torn up with lots of red stuff on it, like blood. The story became a topic of discussion among the school teachers and escalated into a major issue after the children who heard it went home and told their parents. My daughter, still hurting, hasn't been able to go back to school since the Christmas party. Everyone in the neighborhood knew that my daughter and her cousin were related, so they speculated that her absence was related to the incident. Of course, that was the case, but I wished it had remained unnoticed and undisturbed. I had intended to wait until my daughter was ready to go back to school on her own accord. Her cousin didn't share the story to be funny, but rather to find a way to stop his mom's terrible behavior. He, too, was pained by her actions. Learning this, her husband realized he couldn't delay the divorce any longer and agreed to her demands in exchange for her consent. By then, she had become infamous in the neighborhood as the woman who threatened children, and no one would associate with her. Feeling cornered, she agreed to the divorce, thinking returning to her parents' home would end her nightmare. However, they turned her away at the gate, banning her from ever showing her face there again. With nowhere to go, she resorted to spending nights with random men in exchange for meals and a place to stay. When she couldn't find a man, she borrowed money from dangerous sources, accumulating a massive debt. Eventually, she disappeared. My husband and his parents decided not to file a missing persons report, reasoning that she's not a child anymore. They agree it's better this way, not willing to take care of her if she returns. Since then, my daughter has been able to go back to school on her own. Her former brother-in-law didn't move, so her cousin still attends the same school. He now says it's his turn to protect her, and they have become closer than ever. This has led to a deeper friendship between us and my former brother-in-law, as our children have brought us together. My in-laws now call both my daughter and their grandson their dear grandchildren, stepping in as their guardians when needed. With my sister-in-law gone, there's no more tension, and we have built a very trusting and reliable family relationship. When I went to a town I don't usually visit for shopping, I saw my husband and my mother walking closely together and kissing in public. I was shocked and went up to them to ask what was going on. But instead of feeling sorry, they tried to explain why they were doing it. I went straight to my parents' house, told my dad about what I saw, and decided to get a divorce. After my dad passed away, I had to see my mother and ex-husband again after a long time. When I saw my mother, I noticed she was pregnant. She proudly told me that she was having a baby, implying that I had been waiting for one for a long time but couldn't get pregnant like her. They both insulted me, trying to hurt me, but it didn't work. I found their behavior funny and laughed at them. My name is Emily, and I'm a 24-year-old office worker. My parents had me when they were very young. My mom, Linda, was only 16 and still in high school when she met my dad, Ken, who was 4 years older and worked in construction. They got married because my mom got pregnant with me. It was looked down upon to get married while still in high school, and they faced a lot of criticism from family and others. Since my mother was already pregnant with me, they had no choice but to accept the situation. Their marriage seemed to go well at first. When I was in kindergarten, my dad would often come to pick me up on his days off, especially when it rained. I loved walking home with him under the same umbrella, talking about what happened that day. However, an incident changed everything. While working on dismantling scaffolding, my dad accidentally fell and got seriously injured. His body was covered in broken bones and bruises. This left him handicapped, unable to continue working in construction. Despite going through rehabilitation and finding some work through a friend's connection, he needed ongoing care. During this time, my mother's attitude towards him changed completely. She became cold and distant, refusing to help him with medical visits or daily activities. Even when he fell at home and couldn't move, she ignored him or made sarcastic remarks. It felt like she was bullying him, and I didn't like her behavior. Because my dad had to cut back on work for medical reasons, we weren't wealthy. Since my mom worked at night, I spent more time with my dad during the day and felt closer to him. My mom seemed to ignore me, providing only the basics. Despite this, I managed to graduate from high school. But instead of letting me go to college, my mom told me to work and help support the family. So, I ended up taking a job at a small local company. My dad apologized for my situation, saying it's because of his condition that I have to live like this. But I reassured him, saying I'm happy to work if it means I can help him. Despite hating to follow my mother's orders, I was determined to work hard for my dad's sake. After a few years of working and getting used to my job, I married Michael, a senior colleague. I wanted to create a warm family with him, unlike my parents' distant relationship. Michael promised to cherish me and expressed his desire to have lots of kids. I was happy and accepted his proposal. However, despite trying, we couldn't conceive. Michael started blaming me, saying it must be my body that's the problem. He refused to consider infertility treatment and berated me for not being able to have children. I held onto hope and continued trying to conceive. But it didn't work. Michael started staying out late, claiming it was because of work. I began to suspect he might be cheating. There were signs like perfume on his clothes and unexplained expenses on the credit card. One day, when I went to a town I don't usually visit for shopping, I saw Michael, who was supposed to be at work, walking with another woman. Wait, why is Mom walking with Michael? It was my mother smiling and walking next to him. Since I got married, I kept my distance from my mother. I hardly ever brought my husband to my parents' house, so there was no reason for them to talk to each other besides when we got married. Curious about this strange sight, I watched them closely without them noticing. To my surprise, they held hands and kissed right before my eyes. What the heck is going on? I couldn't help but raise my voice. Unaware of my shock, they continued walking away. Finally, I yelled out, "Hey, Michael, Mom, what are you doing?" Unable to bear it anymore, I chased after them, calling for them to stop. This made them show a surprised expression. "Oh, what's the rush, Emily? Why are you so flustered?" "It's not about being flustered." "What are you two doing together?" I demanded. "What do you mean? I just happened to meet Michael here, so we were just greeting each other since it's been a while. Is there a problem with that?" My mother seemed to be playing dumb. Seeing my mother after a long time, she looked young for her age. If not told, one might think she was in her 40s. As I approached her, I noticed something familiar, the scent. It was the same scent I had smelled on my husband's clothes when he came home late. I didn't want to admit it, but I was convinced that my mother was my husband's affair partner. Don't lie, I saw it just now. You and Michael kissing. Oh, you must be mistaken. We just happened to bump into each other, that's all, my husband said, trying to cover up the situation. I didn't think we'd be found out so soon. Why are you even here? What do you mean? I thought we could deceive you a bit longer since you're so oblivious, but I didn't expect you to actually see us like this, my mother chimed in. Well, it's exactly as you suspected. I actually prefer older women like Linda. Sorry, I did feel bad for you, Emily. But I've liked Michael since we first met, my mother admitted shamelessly. We just happened to meet by luck one day, and while having tea, things just developed from there. I'm still young, and I want to experience love. Our marriage was already strained, and the more I talked to Linda, the more I was drawn to her, Michael confessed. All right, I heard about it, Emily. You two are having trouble conceiving. Michael really wanted a boy, and because of you. My mother's words trailed off as she pointed fingers at me. Unbelievably, my husband had shared all our private issues with my mother. Despite my struggles and attempts to seek help, he blamed everything on me, pretending to be the victim. Anger welled up inside me, and I realized I could never continue this marriage. You're the worst. Do you even understand what you're doing? I yelled at them, both of whom kept making stupid excuses. It's because you're a failure as both a wife and a woman that this happened, Michael shot back. I don't need a husband like you. I want a divorce, I declared. Honestly, I've been tired of you for a long time, always making excuses and unable to have kids. It'll be a relief to be rid of a useless, good-for-nothing wife like you, Michael spat. Despite claiming to feel bad, my mother's apology was insincere. But then I threatened to tell Dad about the affair, and her demeanor changed. There's no evidence of our affair anyway. It's your and Michael's business if you divorce, but I'll divorce when I feel like it. Let's go, Michael, my mother said, urging him to leave. Despite their obvious affair, my mother didn't seem to want to divorce my father immediately, unlike Michael. I went straight to my parents' house and told my father everything. So, I've put up with that woman for years. I never expected her to be this terrible to her own daughter. My father expressed his disappointment with a bitter look. Michael and I will get a divorce. I can't stay married after what happened. What will you do about Mom? I asked. Don't worry, I have a plan. I won't let them have their way, my father assured me. Later, Michael sent a completed divorce form, which I signed, finalizing our divorce. My mother hadn't returned home since then, apparently eloping with Michael. Though it was infuriating, my father told me to let go of them both, and I decided to forget about my ex-husband and my mother. After moving out of the apartment I shared with Michael, I returned to my parents' house. My father had become quite capable of taking care of himself, ironically thanks to my mother's lack of assistance. It's unfortunate things turned out this way, but I'm happy to be living with you again, Emily. Thank you for coming back, my father said, as we spent a brief period of peace together. But that life didn't last long. My father got sick with pneumonia that was going around and suddenly was on the brink of life and death. Emily, I've made you endure so much, and I'm truly sorry. From now on, live your life the way you want, my father said with a fading consciousness, firmly grasping my hand. I nodded through my tears. Despite the efforts to treat him, his condition rapidly worsened, and he passed away. Dad, I can't believe you're gone so suddenly. I wish I had been there more for you, I whispered, grief-stricken. While preparing for my father's funeral in a state of depression, an unexpected visitor came to our house. Long time no see. Heard he died, my mother said. And to my dismay, my ex-husband Michael was standing there too. They entered the house with disagreeable smiles on their faces. What are you doing here? Now leave, I demanded, shocked by their presence. Huh. Who do you think you are? I am his wife, you know. It's only natural for his wife to come running when her husband dies, my mother retorted. How dare you say that after running off and not contacting us for years? I shot back. Ah, yes, say whatever you want. But no matter how much you scream, I am his wife. That means I have a right to the inheritance. There was insurance, wasn't there? Disgusting. So that's why you never divorced Dad, my mother said, pressing the issue. That's when I noticed something about my mother. She was wearing maternity clothes, and her belly was really big. Noticing my gaze, she laughed triumphantly. Oh, you noticed? Yes, I'm carrying Michael's child, Emily. You couldn't have one no matter how long you waited, so I'll have the child instead. Unlike you, we managed to have a child right away. Now I can finally become a father. Breaking up with you was truly for the best, my mother said, hurling the most hurtful insults she could. However, their plans to hurt me backfired. Unfortunately for them, I wasn't affected at all. Oh, that's hilarious. Both of you look so stupid together, I laughed, holding my stomach as the two looked dumbfounded. Ridiculous. But are you sure that child is really Michael's? I questioned. Michael looked annoyed at my question, but my mother's demeanor suddenly changed. Her eyes darted around, and she seemed visibly shaken, though Michael didn't seem to notice. It's definitely my child. Don't say such baseless things just because you're bitter, my mother snapped. Yes, that's right. Don't be so sour about it. We'll see if it's a baseless claim once you see this, I said, stepping away and returning with a document in hand. I presented it to them. What's this all of a sudden? Oh, what? What are you so shocked about? It can't be that important. What's this supposed to mean? Both were shocked by the content of the document. It was an investigation report from a detective agency summarizing my mother's social interactions. Not long after my mother eloped with Michael, I coincidentally saw her in the city. However, she was not with Michael, but with a young man I didn't recognize. Following them discreetly, they entered a hotel together. What does this mean? Could it be that Mom is? I decided to have my mother's behavior investigated after consulting with my father during his lifetime, thinking it might be useful someday. The detective agency's investigation confirmed that indeed my mother was deeply involved with a man other than Michael. Reading the document with a look of disbelief, Michael saw detailed information about my mother and her lover. After finishing the report, he glared at my mother standing beside him. What in the world? Were you deceiving me? That's ridiculous, Michael exclaimed. Emily is lying. The child in my belly is definitely yours, my mother insisted, despite being flustered. Who do you believe, Emily or me? My mother asked, trying to persuade Michael. That makes sense. Accusing your own mother just because you couldn't have children. What a terrible woman, Michael said, persuaded by my mother and seeming to regain his composure. They decided that the report was false and began to blame me once again. You're free to believe what you want. But unfortunately, there's conclusive evidence. You can come out now, I said, calling someone in the next room. Then a man entered. Who's that? Who is he? I don't know him. Both were puzzled by the appearance of the man they didn't recognize. This is my husband. You wouldn't know him, of course, because after you, I got remarried to him. His name is Tom. I met him through a friend a year after divorcing Michael and remarried him. How does this man prove anything, unlike with you? I am actually pregnant with his child, of course. So what? Speak clearly? Don't you get it? I couldn't conceive with you, no matter how hard we tried. But with Tom, I got pregnant right away, I said firmly. Michael seemed to realize the implication of my words, and his eyes widened. You avoided going to the clinic because it was a hassle, but I had tests done, and there were no issues with my fertility. So the problem was with you. That's a lie. But it's strange, isn't it? Supposedly, you have infertility issues, yet my mother is pregnant. Are you sure that baby is yours? I challenged him. Faced with my question, Michael couldn't argue back and glared at Linda beside him. Hey, tell me the truth, I demanded. Ah, fine, you win. You admitted it pretty quickly. I thought you'd deny it more. Being with you, Michael, was just a game for me, my mother confessed. What do you mean? I was with you because you were Emily's husband, you know, wanting what someone else has. But my true love was another man. I was planning to leave you soon anyway, she continued. Shocked by her words, Michael was left speechless. I planned to enjoy this game until I got caught. Well, it doesn't matter whether or not I'm carrying his child. My right to the inheritance remains unchanged, my mother stated confidently. You're still talking about the inheritance. Unfortunately, you'll have to give up on that idea, I interjected. What? How many times do I have to say it? I never divorced your father, so I have a right to the inheritance. That's what I've been trying to tell you, my mother argued. There's no such right because you and Dad were divorced long ago, I revealed. What? That can't be, my mother exclaimed, her face turning pale. At my words, my mother, who had been smug until then, turned pale. Michael was still glaring at her. I'm going home, my mother muttered, realizing her affair was exposed, and that she would not receive any inheritance. Later, my mother did give birth to a boy, but it was clear without even needing a DNA test that he was not Michael's child. He abandoned my mother, who failed to secure any inheritance, and disappeared, I explained. The man who was my mother's main affair partner also ran away upon learning of her pregnancy. In the end, my mother became a single mother at 40, left to raise a young child on her own without anyone to rely on. She is raising her son on welfare. The care of a small boy at her old age is physically demanding, and she has aged significantly. I once saw my mother with her son from a distance. With increased gray hair, she looked more like a grandmother than a mother. Meanwhile, I gave birth to a healthy girl, and now our family of 3 lives happily. Ironically, the child my mother gave birth to is my half-brother, and he will be in the same grade as my daughter, making our family situation quite complicated. On the anniversary of my father's death, we planned to visit his grave as a family of 3. The betrayal by my ex-husband and mother was painful, but it led me to gain an irreplaceable family. Surely he's watching over us from heaven, right? My Father in heaven must also be delighted with the birth of his granddaughter. With the love he gave us in our hearts, we vow to continue walking closely as a family. I rubbed my eyes really hard, but the sight in front of me didn't change. When I finally looked again, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Our house looked completely different, like it had been made bigger and changed somehow. Hi, I'm May. I'm 43 years old and I work at home. I've been married to my husband Jim for 15 years, but we haven't had kids. That's okay though, because we're happy together. We made a promise before we got married, And as long as we stick to it, everything's good. When I was young, my parents died. So I only had my husband's parents, who I call my own. We used to live just a short bike ride away from them, which was perfect. But things changed when my father-in-law died suddenly. It hit my mother-in-law hard, and we did our best to help her through it. After about 6 months, she started feeling better. But then things got weird. My mother-in-law started coming to our house all the time, every single day, even when we were busy. She'd let herself in and say she was taking care of things so we could go to work. At first, I thought it was nice of her, but it started getting annoying. I wanted to talk to my husband about it, but he was always out when I got home from work. One day, I came home exhausted, and when I went to change in the bedroom, I saw this huge vase that wasn't there before. I was so surprised, I screamed. When I went back to the living room, my mother-in-law was there, eating crackers and making a mess. I asked her about the vase, and she said she put it there. It was this big Japanese-style vase that didn't fit with our Western-style room at all. I couldn't understand why she put it there, and she didn't seem to get why it was weird. Now, she's eating chocolate next to that precious vase a colleague gave me as a souvenir from their trip abroad. But let's put that aside for a moment. The bedroom used to be plain and boring, but now my mother-in-law says it feels much better with the vase there. She seems to be enjoying herself. If someone thinks the huge vase next to the bed is interesting or improves the atmosphere, I'd want to question them for a long time. It's so out of place. And she brought it here herself, not through delivery. That's impressive. But now is not the time to be impressed. Are we seriously keeping that vase? My mother-in-law then complains that she's tired from moving the vase and asks if dinner is ready yet. She expects dinner too. What did I do all day? Worked hard moving the vase, she says. Can she please go home? I'm starting to get fed up. At first, I thought she was just lonely, but now I don't feel that way at all. I make sure to prepare rice and meat soup for breakfast while she's bustling around, ordering me around. May, where's my lunch money? I'm looking after the house for you. You're so thoughtless. At least vacuum daily. I'm the one getting tired of looking after the house. Don't modern daughters-in-law care for their mothers-in-law at all? Her endless demands are making me want to tear my hair out. And then she says she's going to stay the night. I'll sleep in the room with my son, and you, May, can sleep on the sofa. Seriously? What kind of punishment is this? She finally leaves quietly after I give her my treasured cookies, her favorite. I'm at my wits' end, Jim. Please do something about your mother. I cry out to my husband, feeling like I've reached my limit. Well, even if you say so, Mom must be feeling lonely, I guess, he replies. I thought that phase was long over. It's like she's trying to take over our house. Saying it out loud made it click. Now it seems like my mother-in-law is trying to take over our home. If things continue this way, it'll play right into her hands. Oh, forget about the vase. I think this is a problem, but my husband just frowns. Taking over is an exaggeration, he says. It's fine. She's just looking after the house while we're away. We don't need her for that. We have a home security system. Then should we cancel it? It'll save us money, I suggest, frustrated. That's not the point, he replies dismissively. My husband just doesn't understand. Even when I ask him to talk to his mother, he always ends up doing whatever she says. It's like it's always mother over wife. A mama's boy, huh? And still, my mother-in-law's visits don't stop. She's staying over more and more often. Is her takeover project going smoothly? Why do I have to sleep on the sofa? I miss my bed. Maybe we've been too kind to her after my father-in-law passed away. Is this what they call taking advantage of the situation? As I was pondering what to do, I was called in by my boss at work. Worried that I might have made a mistake, I went to see what it was about. Think you could go on a business trip abroad? He asked. A business trip overseas? A chance to get some souvenir chocolates from a colleague, away from my mother-in-law's reach. Well, it's not like that. Being selected for an overseas business trip means being seen as promising for the future. That's the unwritten rule in our company. No, it's different. I'm moving up, I thought. We couldn't have children, but in return, I devoted myself to my work, and it paid off. It seems God is watching over me. My response? Of course I am, I immediately said. Okay. Are you sure it's okay, leaving for a month? My husband asked. It's fine. Mom's here after all, I reassured him. But it's his mother that I'm worried about. When I return from the trip, there might be more pots. My dear, leave the house to me. I won't let anything bad happen. I'll take care of it until you return, my mother-in-law declared confidently. It's because of you that I'm worried, I thought. In the end, the business trip went too smoothly and got extended. Before I knew it, 3 months had passed, and now I'm back home. Oh, how I've missed this place, I said to myself. Yes, it's nostalgic, I continued. But why is our house under renovation? I closed my eyes for a moment, hoping it's a dream. But when I opened them, it's still the same. What I see is my home transformed by additions and alterations. What in the world? I dashed into the house. Oh, welcome back. You're late, my mother-in-law greeted me nonchalantly. Mother-in-law, what on earth is going on here? I demanded. Well, we're remodeling. We needed to make it a two-family home to live comfortably, she explained. A two-family home. Then my husband appeared. Oh, welcome back, May. You were gone for a long time. Dinner will be simple tonight, he said. It's not about having a simple dinner. Why am I just back from a business trip, expected to cook dinner? I protested. But that's not the main issue. What have you done? Done without telling me. What do you mean? We remodeled for cohabitation. It's better to have a two-family home, right? My husband said, seemingly unconcerned. Why did you do it without asking me? I confronted him, feeling frustrated. This house is in my name, isn't it? I can do what I want with it, he replied, dismissive. But still, I tried to argue, but my husband scratched his head in annoyance. It's fine, isn't it? It's more convenient to have Mom around. It'll make things easier for you too, so you can focus on your work, he said, trying to reassure me. And yet you expect me to cook dinner? Housework is a wife's duty, right? You've been slacking off for 3 months. You can at least do that, he added. I felt a wave of exhaustion hit me at my husband's words. Slacking off? Did he just say that? How busy I was overseas, working from morning till night. I didn't even have time to buy a single chocolate bar despite being abroad. And the torment doesn't end there. Oh yes, I've turned your room into mine. So where is my room? Did you add it in the extension? I questioned, feeling a mix of disbelief and anger. There's no such thing. That extension is entirely my living space. But I wanted a room on this side too, so I turned it into a Japanese-style room. My mother-in-law responded with a hint of finality. What? I exclaimed. Then where is my room? That's what I'm saying. You don't have one. What? A daughter-in-law doesn't need her room. Let's see, if I had to say, your room would be the kitchen. Lucky you, she said with a smug look. I was speechless. She took over my room for herself. And now, while I'm working, she dares to assign the kitchen as my room. A quiet flame of anger began to smolder within me. Then my mother-in-law brought out some documents. You earned money on your business trip abroad, right? Here, take care of this, she said, handing me the papers. What is this? What does she mean by take care of this? I asked, feeling a sense of dread as I looked at the documents. $160,000, I gasped. The total cost of the recent renovations was written there. I was shocked at the astronomical amount and confronted my husband. How do you plan to pay for this huge amount? We haven't even finished paying off the house loan. How are you going to manage with your salary? I demanded, feeling overwhelmed. It's obvious that you're going to pay, May. We're relying on your earnings. You'll have to work hard and earn a lot for our sake. My husband said casually, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. In other words, they intended to make me pay the arbitrary renovation cost of $160,000. At that moment, something inside me cooled and then froze over. I was done. These two were no longer needed in my life. I took the luggage I had brought back from the business trip and left, ignoring their attempts to stop me. I booked a room in a business hotel and started taking action. The next day, I returned to the house. The sight of the changed home brought a wave of sadness as I stood there. My husband came out yelling at me. "May, where the hell have you been, and what have you been doing?" he demanded. "I just had some errands to run," I replied calmly, brushing past him and entering the house without a word. As I ignored his further attempts to engage with me, my mother-in-law yelled at me about last night's steak bill. "Even if you tear it up, I remember the amount," she said sharply. I snorted derisively. "I won't pay." "We are strangers now," I declared firmly, shocking my husband with my words. I slammed a piece of paper on the table. "This is a copy of the divorce papers. I've already submitted the original," I declared firmly. My husband looked surprised as he picked up the paper, confirming that it was indeed as I said. "Do you remember what we promised before we got married?" I asked him. He seemed unsure. "What was it?" "The promise my husband and I made before marriage was that if either of us betrayed the other, we would immediately divorce. We prepared divorce papers as a sort of safety measure, thinking we would never actually submit them like a talisman. But now, I was glad I had them prepared. I had kept the divorce papers in a safe deposit box and submitted them yesterday. Since we are now strangers, there's no need for me to pay any money. I just came to pick up my things today. I've already found a new place, so I'll leave once I've packed my belongings." "What? Wait, May, this is a joke, right?" my husband exclaimed in disbelief. "The biggest joke was thinking you were my husband," I replied coldly. "Why should I live with people who mock me? We're married, not anymore. Marriage is about discussing and deciding important things together. Someone who makes major decisions alone, like you, isn't a husband. Why don't you live happily with your beloved mom?" But my cold words made my husband break down in tears, but it was too late for regrets. I continued. "It's good to care for one's mother. However, that should be balanced with caring for one's wife. The moment he disregarded me and followed his mother's wishes, our marriage was over." "This house is in your name, right?" I reminded him. "I saw the estimate yesterday, and the contract is under your name. Good luck paying back the $160,000. I waved my hand cheerily as he collapsed to the floor in shock. As I started gathering my things, my mother-in-law grabbed my arm. "Hold on, May. You can't just do as you please. I don't need your permission." "It doesn't matter what a stranger thinks of me," I retorted. As she was at a loss for words, I remembered something and handed her an item. "Here, as a housewarming gift for the renovation. Be sure to display it in your room," I said, handing her a vase. "What is this?" she asked, puzzled. "It's a vase," I replied. "Believe it or not, it cost $1. "You're lucky, aren't you, mother-in-law?" "What about the $160,000? She cried out. "Well, I'm just a stranger now," I replied with a laugh, quickly packing my belongings and leaving the house. What happened after that? Well, the two of them, who had completely relied on my income, seemed to be living quite poorly. They couldn't possibly make payments on the original loan plus an additional $160,000. My mother-in-law sold her own house, but it didn't amount to much and was far from enough to cover the costs. As for my husband, he was already dealing with reduced pay due to poor business performance. The shock of our divorce might have contributed to him making repeated mistakes at work, resulting in a significant salary decrease. I remember receiving messages from him filled with pleas for help, saying he couldn't pay the loan and they were going to seize the house. My mother's behavior has been strange lately. She accuses me of being a thief and wanders around the neighborhood. It seems they might have to let go of the house. With that shock, my mother-in-law was probably seeing his messages. I replied briskly, "Work hard for your mom, who's more important to you than your wife," and then I set my phone to block his calls. As for me, work was going well, my skills were recognized, and it seems I might soon be offered an overseas position, not just a business trip. freed from the ill-fated ties. A bright future surely awaits me. Looking up at the contrails in the sky, I took a deep breath. Hi, I'm Anna. I've been with Rob for a long time. We met in college, got married soon after, and have been together for 15 years. Life with Rob was mostly peaceful. We lived in a nice house, had good jobs, and liked a lot of the same things. But there was something missing: a child. We tried for a long time to have a baby. We went to doctors, tried different treatments, and even thought about adopting. But nothing worked. As time went on, not being able to have a child started to make us argue more, and our future didn't seem so bright anymore. Then one day, something changed. It was a regular Wednesday morning. I woke up feeling a bit sick. I thought it was something I ate, but then I realized I missed my period. Could it be? I quickly found a pregnancy test in the bathroom and used it. Waiting for the result felt like forever. When I finally looked, it was positive. My heart raced. We were pregnant. I had to tell Rob. He was in the living room, doing some work. I took a deep breath and told him I was pregnant. But his reaction wasn't what I expected. He seemed worried and unsure if it was safe at our age. I felt hurt. I thought he'd be happy. We argued a bit, but I convinced him that we should be happy about it. The next few months were hard. I was often sick, tired, and felt exhausted all the time. But I held on to hope that our baby would bring us closer together and make our future brighter. But every little kick from inside reminded me why it was all worth it. One day, after feeling particularly weak, I collapsed. Thankfully, Rob was home and rushed me to the hospital. As I lay on the cold hospital bed surrounded by beeping machines, I felt more vulnerable than ever before. Is she going to be okay? I heard Rob ask to Dr. Mitchell, his voice full of worry. She needs rest, Dr. Mitchell replied. Her body is under a lot of strain due to the pregnancy. It's important that she stays relaxed and avoids stress. That hospital stay was the first of many. Each time I was admitted, I'd watch Rob from the window, pacing back and forth in the hospital corridor, talking on the phone, sometimes even arguing with the billing department. One evening, as I lay in the hospital bed, Rob walked in with a tired look on his face. I met with Dr. Mitchell, he began. He said we need to consider the possibility of bed rest for the rest of the pregnancy. I nodded slowly. If it's best for the baby, I'll do it. Rob sat down next to me, holding my hand. I'm sorry, Anna. I wish I could do more to help. I squeezed his hand. You're here with me. That's more than enough. However, as the days went by, Rob's visits became less frequent. Sometimes he'd call. Other times he'd send a text saying he was caught up with work, but the distance between us seemed to be growing. During one of my longer hospital stays, feeling particularly low and missing the comfort of home, I asked a nurse if I could use the phone to call Rob. It's been 3 days, I said, trying to keep the tremor out of my voice. When he answered, I said, You haven't visited. I know, Anna. It's hard for me seeing you like this, he admitted. Rob, I need you now more than ever, I said. Silence. I'll try to come by tomorrow, he finally said, his voice distant. But tomorrow turned into the day after, and soon a week had passed. Feeling isolated and alone, I confided in my nurse, Lisa. He's probably just scared, she suggested, trying to be comforting. Sometimes when people can't handle situations, they distance themselves. One morning, after a particularly difficult night, Dr. Mitchell came into my room. I think it's time we discuss the birth plan, Anna, he began cautiously. There are some decisions to be made. Rob, despite his absences, was there for that discussion. We sat hand in hand, listening to our options, praying for the strength to make the right choices. Days turned into weeks, and as the due date approached, I felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. But I held on to hope, believing that once our child arrived, everything would fall into place. Little did I know, the hardest part of our journey was yet to come. The first moments of holding my daughter, Emma, in my arms were moments of pure bliss. Her tiny fingers, her soft cooing sounds, It felt like a dream. But that dream was quickly shattered by Dr. Mitchell's grim announcement. Anna, Rob. He began with a heavy sigh. There are some concerns regarding Emma's health. We've observed some abnormalities that suggest she might have a severe condition. Rob's face turned pale. What are you talking about? He asked, alarmed. We'll need to run more tests to be certain, but it's important you're both prepared. Dr. Mitchell replied, his voice gentle but firm. That evening, as I cradled Emma, Rob walked into the room, a storm brewing in his eyes. He looked at me, then at Emma, and took a deep breath. Anna, he started, his voice shaking. How could you give birth at this age? We knew the risks. Tears welled up in my eyes. Rob, I thought we wanted this. I thought we wanted a family, I said, almost pleadingly. He was nearly shouting now. You should have considered an abortion. Why bring a child into the world with so many complications because of your selfishness? We now have a possibly sick child to look after, he accused. I was shocked. Rob, she's our daughter. We should be together in this, not pointing fingers, I said, trying to reason with him. But his face was red with anger. I can't believe I'm in this situation. I can't raise a child with potential disabilities. It's not the life I imagined, he said bitterly. As the weight of his words sank in, a cold dread filled my heart. So what are you saying? I asked, my voice trembling. Rob hesitated for a moment. I don't think I can do this. I can't be here, not like this, he finally said, looking away. It felt like the floor had been pulled from beneath me. You're abandoning your daughter because she might be different, I whispered, devastated. He looked away, unable to meet my gaze. I just can't handle it, he muttered. Devastation turned into determination. Fine, if you're leaving, then leave for good. But you'll have no claim over Emma, I declared, my voice shaking with emotion. He didn't respond. Instead, he turned and walked away, leaving me with our newborn daughter, grappling with the uncertainty of our future. The first few weeks after Rob left were the hardest. The house felt empty, but the silence was deafening, and the reality of being a single mother weighed heavily on me. But every time I looked into Emma's big, innocent eyes, I felt a surge of determination. I was going to make sure she had the best life possible, no matter what it took. My sister, Linda, was a godsend during this time. She came over often, helping with household chores and looking after Emma so I could rest. One evening, as I was feeding Emma, Linda walked in, holding 2 mugs of hot cocoa. Anna, she began gently, you need to think about the future. Have you considered finding a place of your own? I sighed, looking around the home that held so many memories. I've thought about it, but the thought of leaving this place, it's just hard. Linda took my hand. I know, but think about Emma. This house will always remind you of Rob and everything that happened. You both deserve a fresh start. She was right. I needed to let go of the past and focus on building a new life for Emma and me. The search for a new place wasn't easy. With my limited savings and no job, options were limited. But then one day, Linda called me excitedly. Anna, you won't believe what I found. There's a small house for rent in my neighborhood. It's perfect for you and Emma. I went to see the house the very next day. It was a cozy 2-bedroom place with a small garden in the back. The landlord, Mrs. Peterson, was a kind elderly lady who lived next door. Linda speaks very highly of you, Mrs. Peterson said, smiling warmly. The place is yours if you want it. I felt tears of gratitude welling up. Thank you, Mrs. Peterson. This means so much to me. Moving in was hectic, but with Linda's help, we managed. As I set up Emma's room, filling it with toys and her tiny clothes, a sense of peace washed over me. This was our home, our sanctuary. Linda popped her head into the room. How's it going in here? I smiled, hugging Emma close. It's perfect. I can't thank you enough. She hugged us both. That's what family is for. You're not alone in this, Anna. Remember that. Days turned into weeks, and life began to settle into a new routine. Morning walks with Emma, visits to the local park, and coffee dates with Linda became our new normal. One day, as Emma and I were playing in the garden, Mrs. Peterson walked over holding a tray of freshly baked cookies. "Thought you too could use a treat," she said, smiling. I smiled back, taking a cookie. "Thank you, Mrs. Peterson. It's delicious." She chuckled. "Call me Ellie. Feels strange being called Mrs. Peterson by my new neighbor." We chatted as Emma giggled and played. Ellie shared stories of her own children, offering advice and wisdom. I felt a connection, a sense of community that had been missing for so long. As the days went by, the pain of the past began to fade. With the support of my sister and new friends like Ellie, I realized that while one chapter of my life had closed, another even more beautiful one was just beginning. Emma's first birthday was just around the corner, and I was deep in preparations. Ellie and Linda offered their assistance, suggesting ideas for decorations and games. As the day drew nearer, I found myself reflecting on the whirlwind of the past year. My baby girl, Emma, was blossoming into a bubbly, inquisitive child, her laughter a constant source of joy. One afternoon, as I was laying Emma down for her nap, the phone rang. The sound was sharp and unexpected. "Hello?" came the familiar voice. It was Dr. Mitchell. I felt a twinge of anxiety. "Dr. Mitchell, is there a problem?" He hesitated, which only deepened my concern. "Anna, I need you to come to the hospital. There's something about Emma we need to discuss." I felt my heart in my throat. "Is she okay?" His voice was thick with regret. "Please come in. We need to talk face to face." Linda agreed to watch Emma while I rushed to the hospital. The drive felt much longer than it was, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. Dr. Mitchell greeted me in his office, his usually calm face lined with worry. "Anna, I'm so sorry to call you in this way. My patience was thinning. What's going on?" Taking a deep breath, he began, "There's been a grave error. The initial test we ran on Emma after her birth got mixed up with another baby's." My confusion grew. "Meaning?" He met my gaze, his eyes filled with regret. "Emma is healthy, Anna. She doesn't have any medical condition. I can't express how deeply sorry I am." The weight of his words hit me hard. "You mean to tell me I've lived this past year under false assumptions? My life turned upside down because of this." His voice was barely above a whisper. "Yes, and it's my responsibility. I can't begin to fathom the pain this has caused." I thought of Rob, of the bitterness and the pain this mistake had caused. "It's shattered my life," I said. Dr. Mitchell looked defeated. "I know words can't change the past, but I'll do everything I can to make it right." I took a moment to collect my thoughts. I need time to process this. Driving home, a mix of relief and fury consumed me. Yet seeing Emma's joyful face as I walked in grounded me. She was my world, and she was okay. That night, Linda and I sat down, and I relayed everything. She was horrified. "Anna, what are you going to do?" I looked at Emma, peacefully sleeping. "For now, nothing. And I don't want Rob to know. He made his choice." Linda squeezed my hand. "You're strong, Anna. Remember, you're not alone in this." In the stillness of the night, I reflected on our journey. Yes, the revelation about Emma's health was bittersweet, but one thing was for sure. I would protect and cherish her regardless of the past. The swift passage of time amazed me. Before I knew it, Emma was already 5 and gearing up for her first day of school. My feelings were a whirlwind of pride, hope, and the natural apprehension of a mother. At breakfast a few days before school, Emma gazed at me, her eyes shimmering with anticipation. "Mom, will I be going to school like other kids?" I smiled warmly. "Yes, sweetie. In just a few days, you'll be starting." Her face lit up. "Will I find friends there? Will they like me?" Touched by her innocence, I assured her, "Emma, you're such a lovely girl. Of course they'll adore you." On her first day, dressed in her new school uniform with a pink backpack hanging from her shoulders, Emma paused at the school gates with a quiver in her voice. She admitted, "Mommy, I'm scared. No one will talk to me." I crouched to her eye level. "Honey, always remember to be yourself. You're amazing, and they'll see that. Just give it some time." Her small hand waved goodbye as she joined the bustling crowd of students. I watched her until she was out of sight, my heart heavy with the typical worries of a parent. A few weeks later, Emma was all excitement and stories about her new friend, Sophia. Their adventures during breaks, their shared love for painting, and their little secrets. One day, she bounced home, asking, "Mom, can Sophia come over tomorrow?" Delighted at her blossoming friendship, I agreed. "Absolutely. I'm eager to meet your new buddy." The next afternoon was filled with their giggles and playful shouts. From the corner of my eye, I noticed their genuine bond, and I thought of how childhood friendships were so pure and uncomplicated. As the sun dipped, a car pulled up. Emma, holding Sophia's hand, led her to the door. To my shock, standing there were Rob and a young woman, presumably his new wife. Emma, inside now. Rob's voice was curt. Sophia, sensing the tension, looked worriedly between her parents and me. "Daddy, I had so much fun." "Emma's my best friend," she said. Rob's gaze was cold. "Sophia, we've talked about this. You shouldn't play with inferior children," his voice dripping with disdain, making it clear whom he referred to. I felt a rush of anger. Before I could retort, the young woman, probably trying to mediate, gently tugged at Sophia's hand. "Come, dear, let's go home." Emma stood close to me, her eyes filled with confusion and hurt as the car drove away. She whispered, "Mom, why did he say that?" Holding her close, I replied, "Sometimes, sweetie, people don't say the nicest things. But always remember, you're wonderful just the way you are." That evening, as I tucked Emma in, I promised myself that no matter what, I'd always protect her from the cruel judgments of the world. Only days after the incident, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. A woman's voice, soft yet firm, responded, "Hi, this is Emily, Sophia's mother. Can we talk?" Surprised, I replied cautiously, "Of course. What's on your mind?" She hesitated. "I'd rather discuss this face to face. Can we meet tomorrow? There's a cafe around the corner from your house." After a moment, I agreed. "All right. See you at 10 a.m. The next morning, I saw Emily waiting. She looked out of place, her pristine appearance contrasting with the laid-back vibe of the cafe. As I approached, she stood up, offering a polite if slightly forced smile. "Thank you for coming," she began, her eyes searching mine. After the other day, I couldn't shake off a nagging feeling that there's more to the story than Rob's told me. I took a deep breath. I'm not one to spread tales, but since Sophia is involved, I think you should know. Over the next hour, I unfolded our past, how Rob and I have struggled with fertility, my unexpected pregnancy, his disinterest, the misdiagnosis, his leaving, and my subsequent journey with Emma. I made sure to be factual, not letting emotion color the narrative. Emily sat stunned. "He never told me any of this. He said you were the one who left him, and he always painted such a rosy picture of your marriage." I shrugged. Sometimes people craft stories to cope or to hide. She looked defeated. "I feel like such a fool. I thought our love was genuine, but now it seems like he was just replacing one life with another." "Emily," I started, my tone firm, "it's not about him anymore. It's about Sophia and Emma. They formed a bond. I don't want Emma to suffer because of our past." She nodded. "I completely agree. Children shouldn't be dragged into adult disputes." As we parted, I felt the weight lifted. For the first time, I felt like I was truly free from Rob's shadow. Having laid our past bare, that evening as Emma played with her toys, she looked up. "Mom, will I see Sophia again?" Smiling, I said, "Yes, sweetie, you will. And always remember, your past doesn't define your future. You do." My phone buzzed on the coffee table, startling me from my thoughts. Rob's name flashed on the screen, a name I hadn't expected to see in a long time. Hesitating for only a moment, I answered, "Anna." Rob's voice was filled with a mix of anger and desperation. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" I frowned, taken aback. "What are you talking about?" He spat out bitterly. "Emily left me. She filed for divorce, and she's taken everything. I've lost almost everything, Anna, and it's all because she spoke to you." I could hardly believe what I was hearing. Rob, you made your choices. I just told her the truth. There was a heavy pause. She also told me about Emma, that she's healthy. You never told me. Why would I, after everything you said, after everything you did? You didn't deserve to know, I retorted. Rob's voice grew softer, almost pleading. Anna, I made a mistake. I realize that now. I want to be there for Emma. I want to be there for you. We can be a family again. I scoffed in disbelief. Now that your life's in shambles, you suddenly want us back? You're unbelievable, Rob. Anna, I know I messed up, but I've changed. Please, give me a chance. I could feel anger rising in me. You walked out on us, Rob. You called our daughter inferior and turned your back. Now that your little fairy tale with Emily has ended, you think you can just waltz back into our lives. Think again. He sounded desperate. Anna, I was wrong. I see that now. Can't you give me another chance? No, I replied firmly. Emma and I have moved on. We're doing just fine without you, and we don't need or want you in our lives. But, Anna? He started, but I ended the call. My heart was racing. I took a deep breath, letting the emotions wash over me. Emma and I had each other, and that was all that mattered. I wouldn't let Rob's selfishness disrupt our peace. Whatever challenges lay ahead, we faced them together. I'm Sarah. I'm 40 years old and have 2 kids. I'm married to John, who's been a great support for nearly 20 years. Life has had its ups and downs, but I believe it's the people you're close to that make it easier. But then there's my brother Tom. He's 8 years younger than me and tends to make a lot of bad choices. He thinks he deserves things without working for them. Despite our mom's hopes, he hasn't really changed much even though he's 30 now. He's like a project for the family, always needing help. One Sunday, we were all at Mom's house, a place filled with memories from our childhood. We were enjoying Mom's famous roast when Tom barged in with a young woman, clearly pregnant and dressed like she was going to a party. It was a shock for everyone, especially since Tom proudly declared that she was his fiancée. Mom was shocked, dropping her fork, and Lisa, the fiancée, didn't seem bothered by the tension. Tom announced they were getting married and planned to stay with Mom until they found their own place. It worried us all. Tom had a habit of causing chaos wherever he went. After the kids were asleep, John and I discussed how Tom was taking advantage of Mom's kindness. We knew trouble was brewing, and we wondered how much damage Tom would cause before moving on. The next few days were a blur as Tom and Lisa made themselves comfortable in Mom's house. Lisa made herself at home in the living room, treating it like her own personal space. She constantly put her feet up on Mom's antique coffee table. Meanwhile, Tom just sat around on his phone, amused by things no one else found funny. Mom was busy trying to keep up with cooking and cleaning after them, but they never appreciated her efforts. It was like watching someone slowly lose energy. One evening, I found Mom in the kitchen looking worn out. I tried to tell her that she shouldn't let Tom and Lisa take advantage of her, but she insisted they were family and she couldn't turn them away. I wanted to tell her she was being used, but I kept quiet. Family relationships can be complicated, and sometimes you have to ignore the problems because you love them, even if you know it's not right. And so it began, our new normal with Tom and Lisa as ungrateful guests. The rest of us tried to keep the peace in a house that suddenly felt too crowded. Little did I know, this was just the beginning. Living with Tom and Lisa turned our lives upside down. Every morning, Lisa complained loudly about her backache or her cravings, demanding breakfast as if she owned the place. She never said please or thank you. I tried to stay calm, but it was difficult. Tom was no better. He lounged around, yelling for breakfast without lifting a finger to help. Mom tried to brush off their behavior, saying they were just young, but I couldn't accept that excuse. Things only got worse as Lisa's due date approached. She left messes everywhere, spending hours on the phone gossiping. One day, I couldn't take it anymore. I found Lisa with her feet on the coffee table again and told Tom they needed to contribute, like buying a new car for the baby's safety. Lisa dismissed me, saying she was pregnant, as if that excused her behavior. Tom defended her, and Mom begged us not to fight for the sake of the baby. But I couldn't ignore the toll it was taking on Mom. It wasn't fair to her to be running herself ragged for them. But Mom wouldn't listen. "Their family, Sarah. What can we do?" she'd say. The days dragged on, with Tom and Lisa disappearing for hours, leaving Mom to clean up after them. They'd return with shopping bags, laughing about their day out. One evening, I overheard them planning an extravagant wedding. "We need the best, babe. It's our day," Tom said, his arm around Lisa. She giggled, saying, "And your mom can help with the expenses, right?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I confronted them, but they brushed off my concerns, saying Mom had the money. Life in Mom's house became unbearable. Lisa gave birth to a baby boy, Alex, but instead of slowing down, it gave Tom and Lisa more excuses. One morning, I found Mom washing a mountain of dishes, while Lisa lounged on the sofa with Alex and Tom played on his phone. I asked Mom why she was doing all the work, and she just sighed, saying Lisa needed to rest, and Tom was busy. Lisa snapped at me, saying she had just had a baby and wasn't supposed to stress herself. Tom didn't even bother looking up, dismissing me. I couldn't believe their attitude. Mom tried to calm me down, but I was fed up. I told them it wasn't okay for Mom to be their servant. But they didn't care. They'd leave Mom to take care of Alex for hours and come back bragging about their shopping deals. One day, I found a receipt on the table for a designer dress that Lisa had bought, costing more than what most people make in a week. I confronted Tom and asked where they got the money for it, and why Mom was paying for their lifestyle. Tom shrugged, saying Mom was their mom and she wanted to help. I was furious, telling them they were bleeding her dry. Lisa chimed in, smirking, saying if Mom was willing, why not? I couldn't take it anymore. I had to talk to Mom alone. I told her she couldn't keep giving them money because they were using her. Mom shook her head, saying she couldn't abandon them, especially not with Alex. I tried to reason with her, but they weren't even trying to be responsible. Tom wasn't looking for a job, and Lisa was spending Mom's money recklessly. Mom looked away, whispering that she knew, but they were her children and she had to help them. I felt helpless watching my family fall apart. Tom and Lisa were draining everything and giving nothing back, and Mom was too kind to see it. I didn't know how much more I could take. The breaking point was near, and I feared what would happen when we finally reached it. Things took a turn for the worse when Mom suddenly fell ill. It happened so fast. One day she was her usual self, and the next she was bedridden, looking frail and weak. I was by her bedside, holding her hand, telling her she would get through this. She smiled tiredly, saying she was just worn out. Tom and Lisa were nowhere to be seen, probably out spending more of Mom's money. I couldn't hide my anger anymore. I asked Mom where they were and why they weren't helping. Mom's eyes were sad as she said they had their own lives and not to be too hard on them. But I couldn't let it go. They were living off Mom, and now when she needed them the most, they were absent. Mom passed away quietly one night, with me by her side. Tom and Lisa were out, probably having the time of their lives, oblivious to the tragedy at home. The funeral was a blur. Tom and Lisa arrived looking like they were going to a party, not mourning a loss. Lisa's dress was flashy and inappropriate, even for a funeral. People murmured, and John squeezed my hand, trying to offer comfort. After the service, Tom pulled me aside. "Sarah, we need to talk about Mom's will." I was still in shock from losing Mom. "Now, can't this wait, Tom?" I asked, but he was insistent. "No, it can't. I know she left the house to me. We need to sort this out." I couldn't believe his audacity. "Tom, Mom just died. Can't you show a little respect?" But he was relentless. "This is important, Sarah. I'm her son. I deserve it." The day after the funeral, I went to Mom's house to start sorting through her things. But when I got there, Lisa answered the door with a smug look. "What do you want, Sarah?" she sneered. I was taken aback. "I came to collect some of Mom's things." Lisa laughed harshly. "Oh, you didn't hear? This is our house now. Tom got everything. Tom appeared behind her, grinning. Yeah, Sarah, Mom changed her will. The house, the money, it's all mine. I felt a surge of anger and disbelief. You're lying. Mom would never do that. Tom shrugged. Believe what you want, but the will is clear. This is my house now. I stood there on the doorstep of the house I grew up in, feeling like a stranger. The realization hit me hard. Not only had I lost my mother, but now I was losing my childhood home to my greedy brother and his manipulative wife. As I walked away, I knew this wasn't the end. I had to fight back for Mom, for my family, and for what was right. But little did I know, the battle ahead would be tougher than anything I'd faced before. I was a bundle of nerves as I walked into the notary's office. The whole situation felt like a bad dream. Losing Mom was hard enough, but fighting with Tom over her was something I never imagined. The notary, Mr. Jacobs, was an old family friend. He looked up as I entered, his face somber. Sarah, I'm sorry for your loss. Let's get straight to the matter at hand, he said. I nodded, trying to steady my voice. Mr. Jacobs, Tom says Mom left everything to him. That can't be true. Mr. Jacobs shuffled some papers. Well, let's see what the will says. Just then, Tom and Lisa walked in, all smugness and arrogance. Lisa gave me a triumphant smirk, ready to lose Sarah. I ignored her, focusing on Mr. Jacobs. He cleared his throat and began reading the will. My heart was pounding in my chest as he read. And to my son, Tom, I leave. I braced myself for the worst, but then Mr. Jacobs said something that made my heart leap. The sum of $5,000. Tom's face fell. What? That's it? Mr. Jacobs continued. And to my daughter Sarah, I leave the family home and the remainder of my estate. I couldn't believe it. Relief and disbelief washed over me. Lisa was furious. That's impossible. She promised us the house. Mr. Jacobs looked at them sternly. There's more. It appears your mother made this last will a month ago after expressing concerns about undue pressure from certain family members. Tom was red with anger. She wanted me to have the house. I couldn't help but feel a sense of justice. Mom knew what you were doing, Tom. She knew you were using her. Tom turned to me, his eyes blazing. You did this. You turned her against me. Lisa chimed in, her voice shrill. We'll contest this. We'll get a lawyer. Mr. Jacobs raised an eyebrow. You're free to do so, but be aware, if it's found that there was any coercion involved in the previous will, there could be legal consequences. Tom and Lisa looked at each other, their confidence wavering. I stood up, feeling stronger than I had in months. Mom saw through your greed. She made sure her last wishes were respected. Tom stormed out, cursing under his breath, with Lisa trailing behind him. I stayed back, thanking Mr. Jacobs. As I left the office, I felt a mix of emotions, sadness for losing Mom, relief that her last wishes were honored, and lingering anger at Tom and Lisa's audacity. It was a regular afternoon when Tom stormed into the house, his face red with anger and disbelief. $100,000 for you and just a measly $5,000 for me? How is that fair, Sarah? I was sorting through some of Mom's papers. His outburst made me pause. Tom, that's what Mom decided. You know she always had her reasons. He slammed his hand on the table, making me jump. Reasons? What reasons could she possibly have to screw me over like this? I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool. Maybe because you and Lisa have been bleeding her dry for years, I said. Tom's face contorted with rage. That's what we deserve, that money. That's when I found it, tucked away in a drawer, a letter from Mom. Her handwriting was unmistakable. I pulled it out and started reading. Tom's eyes were fixed on me, a mix of curiosity and fear. What's that? He asked. It's from Mom, I said, my voice steady. She explains everything here. The letter laid it out in black and white. Mom had originally set aside $100,000 each for Tom and me, but as Tom and Lisa's demands for money grew, she started deducting from his share. I looked up at Tom, his face a picture of shock. By the time she wrote her last will, You'd already taken $95,000, Tom. There was only $5,000 left. Tom staggered back as if he'd been physically hit. No, that can't be true, he muttered. I felt the surge of anger. It's all here, Tom. Every cent you and Lisa took, it came out of your inheritance. He looked lost, his eyes darting around the room. But I didn't know, he whispered. That's the problem, Tom. You never knew or cared to know. I snapped, my patience wearing thin. He slumped into a chair, burying his face in his hands. What have I done, Sarah? I put the letter down, feeling a mix of pity and frustration. You've only got yourself to blame, Tom. You chose this path. Tom left the house that day a broken man. I watched him go, feeling a sense of justice, but also a deep sadness. Our family was torn apart not just by grief, but by greed and ignorance. The house, once a battleground of family feuds, was now eerily quiet. Tom and Lisa had left, cutting off all contact with me. It was a relief and a curse, leaving me to wrestle with the aftermath of their chaos. As I sat in the living room, staring at the walls that had witnessed so much, my friend Jenna called. Sarah, have you heard about Tom? She asked. I braced myself. No, what now? Jenna hesitated. He's been spotted around town looking for jobs, and Lisa, she's been seen with different men, flaunting around like she's single. My heart sank. And Alex, their son? I asked. No sign of him, Sarah. It's like they've forgotten they have a child. I slammed my fist on the table, fury boiling inside me. They're irresponsible, selfish. They don't deserve a child. Jenna tried to calm me. Sarah, maybe there's something you can do. Her words sparked an idea. You're right, I said. I'll fight for Alex. He shouldn't suffer because of them. The next day, I met with a lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Miss Rivera. I explained everything, my voice trembling with determination. So you want to pursue custody of your nephew? Miss Rivera asked, her eyes sharp. I nodded firmly. Yes, he's in a toxic environment. I want to give him a better life. Miss Rivera leaned forward. It won't be easy, Sarah. But if you're ready to fight, I'm with you. I felt a surge of resolve. I'm ready, whatever it takes. The legal battle that followed was tough. Tom and Lisa were unpredictable, sometimes cooperative, sometimes hostile, but I didn't back down. One evening, after a particularly grueling day in court, John wrapped his arms around me. You're doing the right thing, Sarah. It's hard, but right. I leaned into his embrace, exhausted but hopeful. I just want Alex to be safe, to have a family that cares. The day the judge granted me temporary custody of Alex was bittersweet. He was a sweet boy, confused and scared, but he slowly opened up to us. Emily and Max adored him, and he brought a new kind of joy into our home. Tom's reaction was a mix of anger and defeat. You've taken everything from me, Sarah, he said. I faced him, my voice unwavering. I'm protecting Alex, something you should have done. As Tom stormed off, I realized our relationship might never be repaired, but this wasn't about us. It was about a little boy who needed a stable home life. With Alex, there were challenges, but also laughter and love. He was becoming a part of our family, and I was determined to make it permanent. Looking back, I knew I'd made the right decision. It was time for new beginnings for all of us, a chance to heal, to grow, and to build a future filled with love and stability. That was the legacy I wanted to leave, a stark contrast to the selfishness and greed that had once threatened to tear us apart. The house, once a reminder of familial discord, was now filled with laughter and the pitter-patter of little feet. Alex had become a part of our lives, his presence a constant source of joy and wonder. One evening, as we were tucking him into bed, he looked up at me with those big innocent eyes. Aunt Sarah, am I going to stay here forever? I smoothed his hair, my heart swelling. Yes, Alex, you're part of our family now. He smiled, his tiny hand gripping mine. I like it here. Emily and Max are fun. I kissed his forehead. We love having you here, sweetie. As I walked out of his room, John was waiting, a proud smile on his face. He's really settling in, isn't he? I nodded, feeling a sense of accomplishment. He is. We're giving him the life he deserves. The next day, I received a call from Miss Rivera. Sarah, it's official. The court has granted you full custody of Alex. I nearly dropped the phone, tears of happiness welling up. Thank you, Miss Rivera. Thank you for everything. After hanging up, I shared the news with the family. Emily and Max cheered, hugging Alex in a group embrace. Even John had tears in his eyes. We're a family, John said, his voice choked with emotion. A real, complete family. The journey had been long and fraught with challenges, but we had come out stronger. In the months that followed, Alex blossomed. He was no longer the timid boy we first met. He was confident, happy, and loved. One day, while we were all in the garden, Alex came running up to me, a dandelion in his hand. Look, Aunt Sarah, I made a wish. I crouched down to his level. And what did you wish for? He grinned, his eyes sparkling. I wished we'd all be together forever. I hugged him tight. That's the best wish, Alex, and it's come true. As I looked around at my family, I felt a deep sense of peace. We had weathered the storm and emerged stronger. Our future was filled with hope, love, and the promise of new beginnings. This was our story, a testament to the strength of family and the power of love. It was a future of hope, and we were ready to embrace it with open arms.